Hello, Kansas City, and welcome to our second episode of Speak Up. I am so excited. I am sitting in the office of the County Executive, Frank White Jr. And I have been trying to pin my friend down for a while, but you know, when you're busy, you're busy. And I respect this office so much, but it is such a pleasure. So today we're going to talk to Frank and just talk about Jackson County and all the good things that are happening in Jackson County, all the hard work that's being done here at the county. And so that we all know who Frank is. Frank, thank you so much for agreeing to have this interview and talking to me. Boy, we've been trying to do this for a little while.
Yes, we have.
And,
yes, we have.
Busy.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much going on in Kansas City. And right now, the hot topic is property taxes. And so it's very interesting that mainly like myself, I didn't understand how property taxes were assessed, who handles the property taxes, and why the county always has to get thrown under the bus.
Well, this happens every 2 years, and
Okay.
I think the one thing that our county assessor, she's mandated by the state, and we have over 300,000+ properties in Jackson County that have to be physically seen. And in 19 and here in 23, we've gotten that done where previously it wasn't done. And so basically what we try to do is we don't set property taxes. Basically we value properties.
Okay.
And then what happens there, then after we value those properties, then what we want to do then is, my job is to make sure that our residents have somewhere to go where they can appeal their values. And so our assessor set up the informal appeal process and also the Board of Equalization. That's their job is to equalize values. Okay. And I have complete confidence in those folks that they will try to reach a fair value for each resident that come in with their paperwork and so forth. And then past that, you have your state tax commission, and that's like the last step. But
okay.
But so it's valuations, there's appeals, and it's BOE appeals. Then there's the state tax commission.
Okay. So I wanted to get this off our plate as soon as possible. So I'm going to throw a couple of more things out there. One of the things that I'm very interested in is as the county executive, because you know we tend to think the county executive's job is that you're making decisions that are not decisions that you make. And so what is the county executive's job? What is your job?
Well, the main thing I would say is to administer all affairs of the county. That would be the big, broad definition of it.
Yeah.
In terms of property valuations, like I say, my job there is, like I say, make sure that there's an appeal process for the residents, so they can go and get some relief if they need it. They come with a fair value for their property.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm just like everybody else.
Yeah.
You want a process that's fair. You want a process that's equitable, and you want to make sure that the residents are taken care of.
Right. So, you know, the thing that really strikes me and people, we really don't understand, especially us Kansas Cityans, that Jackson County spreads further than Kansas City.
It is, yes.
So
yes.
You have how much, what is your
Well, Jackson County itself is about 260 square miles. You're talking probably 18 cities. Kansas City happens to be the biggest city in Jackson County. And it encompasses 700 and roughly 15 to 17,000 people.
Are you kidding me? Now,
so when you hear elected officials talk about my constituents, well, I think all of these are my constituents because I'm elected countywide. So I just try to make sure that we do the things that, you know, by charter and by state statute and by county codes that we're supposed to do in order to take care of the residents of Jackson County.
Boy, that's a lot. I didn't realize. I knew that it stretched out you know, in areas that you just right off the top of your head, you know, you know that Lee Summit and Grandview and Blue Springs, but you don't realize this thing really spreads out.
Well, we go as far east as Oak Grove, Missouri.
Wow.
And then we go south to Grandview and north up to Sibley, Legacy, along the Missouri River. And they're just a small little piece of Jackson County that crosses the river.
Yeah.
But it just encompasses a big area.
Yeah.
And each city has their own, each municipality have their own, police and their mayors and so forth. And really the only thing that we really got involved in, Kim, where it affected a lot of our cities was during COVID. Is because we had to, because all cities who didn't have their own health department had to go by county guidelines.
Wow, that's real. So, I mean, it doesn't matter how big or how small your city is. If you're part of the county, at a time where your need has to be met, the county becomes responsible for that.
Well, we try to work with the mayors and the elected officials of those cities to see where we can help.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing by the county being located where we are downtown, we have two county seats, one down here, this courthouse, and the courthouse in Independence. Independence was the original county seat, so we have two. And a lot of times trying to get the folks who live in Kansas City to understand what the county actually does is really difficult. We don't, we get calls for trash and other things that the city does, but we always have to tell folks that we don't, that's not our bailiwick here in Kansas City.
Right.
So
I think that's important too. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this, so that we would get a better understanding of what the county does versus what the city does, and who you should reach out to. Understanding that as a county resident, it is easy to go to the county's website and look up ordinances and things that that pertain to your questions, instead of just picking up the phone, because it gets frustrating when you call. Well, it gets frustrating. You make a call and it seems like people are sending you here or passing the buck. But if you went to the website or you did your research, you would say, oh, this is not something the county does.
Everything's there. And I wish more people would fact check.
Yeah.
And I know during this time, you have a lot of elected officials holding town halls and they're telling our residents about capping and freezing and rolling back and all those things that we can't do.
Yeah.
And I think it just gives the residents a false impression of we're not doing our job.
Right.
And so you get these emails from folks saying support the 15% cap, those things we can't do.
Yeah.
But elected officials, I think a lot of them in times like these, they run for cover.
Yeah.
And they have these town halls and they tell people that I'm going to recommend this. It's the intent of us to do this. Yeah. But at the same time, all you're doing is giving them false hope for something that they can't achieve. So rather than just telling them the truth, that this is a process that Jackson County has, and it continues to improve. But help people get signed up for their appeals, help people navigate through the process because we don't set the tax. The tax is set in October by when all your taxing jurisdictions set their levies. That's when the tax is formed.
Okay.
And so it's our hopes that by the time you go through the appeals process, through the Board of Equalization process, then you're in pretty good shape at that point.
Yeah.
And so what we do as a county, we collect taxes.
Yeah.
But then we redistribute the taxes back out to the taxing jurisdictions.
Wow. Wow. So that's really important to know. So actually, Jackson County assesses the property and they turn it over, the assessments over to the tax.
Once the valuations go out to the homeowners, property owners.
Yeah.
And then if they're not satisfied with that valuation, then they had an opportunity to sign up for what we call the informal appeal process. That's with the assessor, and she brings in realtors to talk to folks about property values and things like that.
Yeah.
And then if that's not satisfactory, then they can go to the Board of Equalization, which is they work by state statutes also, and their job is to equalize values, and hopefully they'll come up with some fair value that both can live with.
Yeah.
And then from there it goes to your taxing jurisdictions.
Wow.
And then when the taxing jurisdictions set their levies, then that's when the tax is formed.
Right.
And most of your commercial, they may go all the way to the state tax commission at that point.
Okay. So everything has a process. We know that.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So one of the big questions has always been, why did the taxes jump up so high?
Hmm.
And we understand that there's taxes and there's a process, but I'm this little old lady that have lived in this house for 50
Hmm.
years, or an older couple, and
Hmm.
we've owned this house. We haven't been able to afford to do any upgrades, and we went from at least a doable tax level to, we're going to lose we can't stay here because we can't pay these taxes.
Well, I think that when you're evaluating properties, you really don't know who lives there.
Yeah.
Mainly you're just evaluating property itself.
Right.
The market itself is what the assessor has to. She's sort of mandated by the state tax commission to bring properties in at fair market value. So that's to me, that's the big word, fair.
Fair. Yeah.
And so if you don't think it's a fair market value, then that's why you go and sit with her.
Yeah.
And then that's why you go to the Board of Equalization to get that relief that you're looking for.
Okay.
And I feel confident in Gail's approach. I feel confident in the BOE to come up with a fair valuation for homeowners that come in and sign up. I think that is my job, and
Okay.
I think that is what I want to make sure is they do have processes that they can go to and get relief based on the information that they have.
So this ain't the Frank White tax?
No, one county official called it a Frank White tax.
No, I've heard it on the news before. The Frank White tax. I don't know who. There's a
Well,
newscaster that said it, and I was like,
well,
oh,
Kim,
yeah,
they always say heaviest is the head that wears the crown, right?
right,
And having the name Frank White sells papers. It makes people watch TV, but it doesn't make people fact check. It
right,
doesn't make people. I mean, to me, it's a simple process.
yeah,
They say, well, the county executive can do this. Then go find out.
yeah,
Where's the state statute that says he can do this? Where in the charter that says he can do this?
right,
And if everybody does their fact checking, nobody's upset about anything.
right.
But like I say, my name sells papers. My name
Well,
makes people
now
look.
that segues me into
Mhm.
what I should have started this segment with, because now we've gotten through the taxes. We're done with the property taxes. I
Mhm.
think we can get people to understand that. I am sitting here
Mhm.
with, I mean, a Hall of Famer, and I own a sign, an autograph ball. Number 20,
Right.
1985 World Series champion.
Mhm.
I mean, you have been the face of Kansas City for so long. And you're right, you're Frank White. I had a call today and I was telling him that I was getting ready to interview you, and his thing was, the Frank White, number 20? Yeah, the Frank White, number 20. And he's like, I would give anything to meet him. Okay, come to a Monarchs game or come down to Jackson County. He's pretty much open door.
Right.
So tell me about Frank White. I know a lot about you, but I think Kansas City needs to be reminded that you really are a Kansas Citian.
Well, Kim, I think people that have known me for a while. I mean, when I was playing baseball, I think that's when you really that's when people get to know you. That's when
Mhm.
people fall in love with you one way or the other. But people that have known me know that I'm from the East Side.
Yeah.
They know I've always cared about the East Side.
Yeah.
That's why I started my program. I Healthy KC. It's
Yeah.
East Side, but now it's called I Healthy KC Jackson County now.
Yeah.
It's really to help build an infrastructure of healthcare on the east side of Kansas City.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of times you get miscast sometimes
Mhm.
because people don't really know what you're doing. But we've done great work down here. I mean, with that program, with our Kids to the Park program, and before COVID, we had a senior program where we took seniors on tours
Yeah.
of our city facilities. And also, I think when I really think back to what we've done here at the county itself,
Mhm.
when I came in, salaries are $8 an hour,
Yeah.
and we had folks that were relying heavily on government assistance. We quickly got them to $10 an hour. We did a pay study. Now everybody's over $15 an hour.
Okay.
And then we just kept looking for ways to enhance benefits. So we took our paid family leave from 5 weeks to 12 weeks, and man, woman, case of adoption, whatever
Yeah.
it might be, and that's the most aggressive in the state. That's the head of
Way
the
ahead.
feds,
Way ahead.
and
Yeah.
even our going up over $50 an hour is ahead of the state.
Yeah.
And so I took a 74% funded pension plan, and now it's at 94%.
Wow.
And so when folks who work at the county retire, they know there's going to be benefits there when they retire. I think that is huge. We also added fertility benefits to our health care. So we've really just tried to be on the cutting edge of just doing things that really
Yeah.
need to be
Yeah.
done. And I think these are the things that I'm most proud of, is that you can get beat up on a lot of things, but it's hard to get beat up on how much you care.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that if anybody knows me,
Yeah.
I'm honest, I'm not that polished politician that they want you to be.
Yeah.
But I am honest. I'm always do the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think that is the thing that I take away from this job, is that I've been able to help so many people.
Right.
And
Right.
when I was a kid, I was that guy that in the summer I had a lawnmower, in the fall I had a rake, and then the winter I had a shovel. So I was
Yeah.
always working
Yeah.
with my community,
Yeah.
taking care of the elderly in my community. Go to the store for them, walk them home from the store. So I've always been community minded,
Yeah.
and I think that this job is right for me because I'm always going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think people that know me trust me. The ones that truly trust me say, if I don't hear you say it, then I don't listen to it.
I don't listen to it. Right.
But I really feel that I've come a long way. I learned a lot. I met a lot of great people, and continue to meet a lot of great people.
Yeah. You know, and this is the thing that really impresses me about you, Frank, is that you didn't have to come here. You didn't have to take a job that was going to be sometimes abusive.
Oh boy.
Because when you sit in these seats, you know, you take most of the time unfair and unwarranted, I can't talk this morning, abuse. Because one, we don't do our fact check.
Right.
It's easy when I'm frustrated to beat up on you. And actually, you could have just lived your life being Frank White, the champion of the Royals World Series 1985. And everywhere you went, people would still be running up saying, Mr. White, can I get your autograph? Mr. White, can I take a picture? Mr. White, can I get a selfie? And so I'm just thinking that I know that you've always been a part of the East Side, and you have the heart of the East Side. But you are one of the people that I can say that actually came from the East Side and said, I'm not going to turn away from it. I'm not going to turn my back on it. And but the thing that we have to learn also, as the East Side, because I live on the East Side, as the East Side, we have to remember we can't put the weight of all of the East Side on your back. We've got to assist you in carrying that.
You know, I have always wondered about the East Side, even as a kid growing up, and as I got older and started playing ball. And you know, in '68, my graduation year, we had the riots.
Yeah.
And after the riots, we lost a lot of our businesses, a lot of our staple businesses, like grocery stores and so forth.
Yeah.
And it was 50 years later, and we're still talking about the East Side.
Yeah.
And I really felt like something should have been done a long time ago.
Right.
And with me being a county, and we just lend our support where we can lend it in terms of economic development and things like that.
Right.
But we don't have a lot of say in TIF and tax abatements and things like that. We fight most of them.
Yeah.
But I just really feel like the East Side has been neglected for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And it's just time for everybody should pay attention to it. Because I really feel like you can't be a city where you say it's a great place to grow up, a great place to live, a great place to visit, when you're excluding a big part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So when people are coming from out of town to move to Kansas City, they're not saying, let's go to the East Side. They're saying, let's go to Overland Park. Let's go to South KC, Hyde Park, Beacon Hill, those places.
Yes.
So I just went until the East Side is truly encapsulated into the city itself, where you can say the city is truly a good place to live, where you have economic development all around, and not just where what people deem the less desirable.
Yeah.
And you don't want the east side to always be uh, that area where if it's not desired anywhere else, let's put it on the east side.
Let's put it on. Yes. Yes.
I just want our residents to keep fighting for their property values, keep fighting for their way of life.
Yeah.
And I think if that happens, then maybe uh, they'll look to hold their elected officials more accountable for bringing things into the community that the residents can benefit from.
Yeah.
I think that's great. So the county itself, we're like I said, we put a lot of money in the urban core. I mean, I've spent more money in urban core than any county executive in our history.
Yeah.
And you know, we have the two university health hospitals that we fund, so that we try to help them with the uncompensated care, so they don't turn folks away. And we have the two stadiums, and we have the ME office, and we're in the process now of building a $300 million jail. So we have a lot on our plate.
You got a lot on your plate. So there are two things I'm gonna ask you about. But I want to go back to the urban core and economic development in the community, because I have a lot of people running the chamber. I have a lot of small businesses that come and they say, you know, Jackson County has all this money and they don't want to give out any money, blah, blah, blah. And one of the things that you and I have talked about, and you all know me, I am very transparent when it comes to grants and business.
Right.
I'm not a champion or a cheerleader for continuing giving out grants, because it doesn't develop a business.
Right.
It's not scalable. During the pandemic, of course, as a recovery tool, it was great. But you got businesses starting, and they're starting based on, I can go and do a pitch and I can get a grant. I can get a grant. I can get a grant. So I noticed there's a lot of organizations that are out here having meetings and telling people that, you know, we're going to get money from the county so we can give grants. Would it be, wouldn't it be more favorable if we could find ways to set up programs where we are helping businesses to grow capacity and build their businesses, scaling as a business, and not, because grants basically were created for nonprofits. So basically, how do we work with the county to come up with a system where we can say, okay, we'll help you, but let's start a program that will help you build and utilize this funding where it grows your business, and not you get it, you do something and it's gone.
Ooh, that's a lot.
Yeah, I know.
And you and I've had that conversation before.
Yeah.
And in the process of working on something in the near future here. But I think the county itself, during COVID, we spent over $150 million into the community. We spent over $40 million on housing and rental assistance. We funded schools, both health departments, and when the new legislature came in, then they saw that we had funds still in the bank, but didn't take the time to ask us what those funds were for. They basically started redistributing on their own. But the thing that we try to take care of here is that we have a lot of aging infrastructure.
Yeah.
And if you look at this building here in 1934, and we had a flood, we had air conditioning go out.
I remember
the days with the tubes outside.
Yeah.
And so we decided that the funds that we held back, it said, okay, we need to probably get our administration out of the courthouse. So we purchased a new administration building at 1300 Washington, where they're holding all the appeals. Which is a beautiful building, by the way. And so now it's just getting the legislature to give us the funding to go ahead and complete that building.
Yeah. And
when we do that, then I think we can come back and do some infrastructure work in here. But those funds were really designed to first take care of our infrastructure the best we can.
Yeah.
We know there's going to have to be more down the road, but that's one-time funding.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that we could do as much as we can to our buildings. Our courthouse in Eastern Jackson County Courthouse, historic courthouse needs work. Our juvenile court needs work.
Yeah.
So we just have a lot of infrastructure needs, but don't have a revenue stream to meet those needs.
Yeah.
And so we don't have anything like a use tax or anything like that, where we don't have an earnings tax like the city does.
Right.
So we have to do what we can when we can. But with the dollars that we're spending on the stadiums, it makes it difficult for us to do a lot of infrastructure repair.
Yeah.
And,
Okay. So you mentioned the stadiums.
mhm,
I just want to briefly ask you because I know there's the Business Journal put out that there's two sites that are being looked at,
mhm,
Jackson County and Clay County.
mhm,
And so, as the uh, Jackson County executive, what is your take or what is your position on it? And I won't say
mhm,
position. I mean, um, I know that putting a stadium or moving a stadium,
mhm,
that's very costly. So,
mhm. Well, I mean, there's a lot of things to consider, but I think what I try to do is to make sure that we get our team together that's going to be negotiating with the Royals, get them in place before we even go down to just determining whether it's really not our concern in a way that when we read things in the paper, we're going to jump this way, we're going to jump this
right,
way. And,
right,
every city and municipality has a right to make an offer to get the team to do this and do that. But it's our hopes that with our long time standing with the teams, that they would give us first right to negotiate.
right.
And we've expressed a few times that once our with government, things move so slow,
I know.
and we have to go through RFP process,
Yeah,
and so
yeah,
once we get a negotiating team in place, then we'll be reaching out to the Royals to see what we can
yeah.
negotiate. Yes.
All right, now, see,
Mhm,
I'm just like totally excited
mhm,
about where we're going in Jackson County. I can't say enough, and I think you and I talk offline quite a bit. I do my research,
mhm,
and I see the movement that Jackson County has made, and
mhm.
post COVID, even during COVID, that was a hard period,
Yes, it
and
was.
once in
Yes.
a lifetime, and not even a lifetime,
Mhm.
once in every maybe 3 or 4 lifetimes, the world suffers something as
Yes.
big and as catastrophic as
Yes.
COVID-19.
Mhm,
And then coming out of that and trying to make a whole county of what, 18 cities
mhm.
recover from that.
Yeah, we have a few villages and so forth.
Yeah, so
But
that's,
but yeah, but you know what though, that was a tough time.
yeah,
Very well. It
yeah,
was really a tough time.
yeah,
But you know, I'm really kind of glad that I was in office
yeah,
during that time
yeah,
because I'm not a political guy,
yeah,
and I wasn't going to make it political.
yeah,
Yeah, and I'm basically it was all about public service.
yeah,
I mean public safety,
yeah.
and that's the way I approached it. And you had a lot of lawsuits being filed. You had a
Hmm.
lot of legislators. Not only from the county but from the state. Everybody's coming up with all these.
Yeah, yeah,
You can't do this, you can't do that. You went through mask mandates and things like that. The only thing that I really regret during that time is kids having to go to virtual learning,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that created a whole new set of
yeah.
problems for parents
They're still
and
trying to recover
and
from that.
yes,
Yeah,
and things like that. But I just really wish that there could have been a better process for keeping kids
yeah,
learning where they're together and the social aspects of
yeah,
it and things like that. But that's the part that I regret most during
yeah,
that time is that there was just no other way based on CDC recommendations and so
yeah.
forth that we could do anything different than what we did. But it was about keeping people safe and keeping people alive, and that's what spurred me to start I Healthy KC East Side because we felt like more Black people were getting sick faster, going to the hospital faster, and dying faster.
Right, right.
And a lot of it was because they didn't have the education on the vaccine that they needed and so
Yeah,
forth. And so when we started this program with UMKC and with University Health, then Dr. Berkeley Patton
yeah,
from UMKC, she was able to put together a strong team of folks, professional folks, and they were able to go out and meet the public, and they were able to educate folks on the vaccine and also give them access to preventive screenings,
yeah,
from hypertension and diabetes and STI, and also this year we added what I think is very crucial to Black women and minority women is uh, early child, just infant mortality.
Yeah.
And that has been something that's been on my mind for over a year.
Yeah.
And we finally have it in place where we can actually do something about it. And that really came through surveys that they did in the meetings from last year.
Right.
And we felt like that was an area that we really had to really pay attention to, the prenatal through birth out to a year past birth.
Right.
And so those are the kind of things that I focus on as community health. I mean, we had to have it, otherwise it doesn't work. And I know my parents, both my parents, passed from colon cancer.
Wow. Yeah.
And even though they were older, and they were from that generation where they just said, check my eyes, listen to my heart,
Yeah.
look at my,
Yeah.
you know, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I would know if they'd had preventive screenings for colon cancer, which is the most curable
Right.
at an early stage.
Right.
And so I really felt like that was a hot button of mine. Is
Yeah.
trying to really focus on just overall health, and the program is a tremendous program, and we spent, you know, we spent $5 million last year on it, $5 million this year on it. These are all federal funds.
Yeah.
And I intend to submit another $5 million next year to the program, and hopefully by then we'll have a pretty good structure where people can better understand individual health care,
Yeah.
and how to take care of themselves, and when you get things in the mail about screenings, take advantage of them, and because that you just don't want that first screening to be your last screening.
Your last screening.
You
know, and I can say this, as the Heartland Black Chamber of Commerce, we were part of the team that worked with our Healthy KC, Eastside KC.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a lot of, we did several COVID-19 vaccination pop-ups. We did one at Sunfresh on Blue Parkway. Well, actually we did two there, and the outreach and the number of people and the screenings, and I mean, just some of the other areas that they screened and found, and that people got
the surveys made a big difference.
Made a big difference.
A big difference.
Well, we are winding down, and I don't know, I can't tell you, first of all, I want to thank you for the hard work that you do.
Thank you. Thank you.
If nobody tells you, I'm going to tell you thank you. I'm looking forward to this next term. I know, excuse me, I know we're in some growing pains.
Yes.
Just like anything else, it's everybody getting to the point where we've shaken the pan until all the marbles fall in the hole. I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to work, because I know that Jackson County is one of the best counties in America. I saw what you did during COVID, and I'm looking forward to what you're going to do next. If there's anything out there that you want to say to Jackson County, I want you to look into that camera over there and just tell your constituents and all those people out there what you want for them.
Well, Kim, you know what I like to have people know about us is that what we're trying to do is build a better and more equitable Jackson County. We're trying to be all inclusive, and we want to support the programs that need to be supported. We want to support the laws that need to be supported. That's going to make our community safe and healthy. And really, that's my driving force for being here, is to be able to create equity and create fairness, and make sure that everyone has access to all the different services that they need to be healthy and safer.
All right, there you have it. I want to thank Televida for another opportunity to bring you Speak Up. We are finishing up with not only baseball 1985 World Series champion, Hall of Famer, county executive, Frank White Jr. And if you don't know him, or if you didn't know him, now you know him. Looking forward to another episode. Our third episode will come out in about a week. And we're looking forward to bringing you another opportunity to speak up. Thanks again, Kansas City. See you again soon. Bye.